Oilers, you got a great offense with Connor McDavid. So I have them sweeping them.
Yeah, well, I don't think you heard my point. The San Francisco Giants have 3 more in the 2010s than the Rangers have in their entire history. So, yeah.
It's hard to get back and to get back-to-back wins, and I don't see the Lightning doing it here, so I have them losing to the Hurricanes in 6.
We don't talk about the 2010s because the 2010s had the Astros, and if the Astros didn't happen, the Yankees would have won in 2017 with the Dodgers.
He was close to Frank Reich, and they want Frank Reich back, so that's what they got. It's their discount Frank Reich.
Kaprizov and the rest of this crew, Jordan Greenway, who doesn't get enough props. He definitely is somebody who needs to be mentioned more.
Hi, this is Julie Dobbs. You're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. Today we're going to be talking about draft needs. Draft is coming up. I'm Kevin, and I am joined by our hockey specialist, Austin.
I wouldn't go that far, Kevin. You did beat me in our playoff predictions.
Well, that's just because I went with Vegas. But sometimes you win some. But I did lose the NBA. So check out all those other videos as we're talking about. We'll be posting a ton of videos. So let's just get right into it. We're going alphabetical order by mascot. The Avalanche is our first team. What's their draft need? Their draft need is center. What do you think?
Yeah, their injuries really plagued them throughout the year. Whenever McKinnon was out with injury, which he was on a number of occasions, their offense seemed to sputter. And while they still have good goaltending, it definitely hurt their chances. And obviously, that's why they fell all the way to that's why they fell to Seattle.
Yeah, and they really lost a dynamic center in Kadri to the Flames, who was really helpful in their playoff push, or in that championship. Blackhawks, we just said everything.
Yeah, that's fair. They traded Kane. Taves is not welcome back, basically, or they're not going to bring him back. So they lose their franchise stars, and now they have to rebuild.
Yeah, it seems like it's a full rebuild now, not kind of that retooling thing they tried for a few years. But now we'll move into the Blue Jackets, who needed a defenseman.
Yeah, the Blue Jackets, a team that used to have Seth Jones and Werenski both healthy. Werenski now only played like 6 or 8 games last year, and Seth Jones is obviously struggling with Chicago. So they lost their best defensive pair to either injury or trade. So, yeah, they need to bolster it.
And then we have the Blues, we put goalie.
Yeah, the Blues really struggled this year with goaltending. Neither of the guys are 900 goaltenders, which is really, really bad when you think about it.
Yeah, and then the Bruins, we put best available. So it could change if there are some retirements, like we were talking about before.
Yeah, I totally agree. But it's not, again, they were the best team in the league during the regular season, and I still believe that they played well in the postseason. Obviously, not as good as they could have. But I just feel like best available is where you need to go here, because I believe that Krejci and Bergeron will come back for one last ride because of the dominance that we showed last year. But even if they don't, best available can't hurt you. It may not be the best thing for your team, but best available is the safest thing to do always.
Yeah, and then with the Canadians, we put goalie.
Yeah, the Canadians, for the future, they need better goaltending, especially because they lost Carey Price to pseudo retirement, even though he's kind of played some games here and there. But the Canadians have always been good when they've had great goaltending.
And then, that's very true. The Canucks, we have defensemen.
Yeah, the Canucks obviously let go of Oliver Ekman-Larsson, or bottom out, whatever they did. He won't be on the team next year, and so that leaves a hole in defense, probably where the biggest hole is for them.
Yeah, and then the Capitals, we put center. I know they traded a big center to the Bruins, or was that someone else?
They traded the defenseman to the.
Okay, I thought there was also a center in that deal. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, but I don't think no, it wasn't a center. It was
Okay.
Garrett Hathaway, who was a right winger.
Okay.
They also traded
Uh,
Dmitry Orlov, who was a really good defenseman.
okay. But it just seems like they need a center um, for that team.
Yeah, I agree.
Then Coyotes, everything.
Yeah, they are firmly in a rebuild.
Mm-hmm. And then this one we got very specific. The Devils right wing.
Yeah, that's really what tore them down in the playoffs is that they didn't have a lot of help on that right side, and that's like I said, slowed them down against a high-scoring team like the Canes.
And then Ducks, we put anything but goalie.
Yeah, Gibson's still extremely, extremely good, and I do not expect them to need to fill his spot anytime soon.
Yep. And then Flyers, or okay, we're at the Flames. The Flames, we put right wing.
Yeah, another team that lacks that. I know they got Kadri, but losing some of the other guys they did, like Kachuk, it really left a hole.
Mm-hmm. Flyers, we repeat again by saying anything but goalie.
Yeah, I mean Carter Hart really was the bright spot on that team. They started off hot, but they struggled to the end of the year, and that goaltending was the only way that they stayed above. So anything besides that.
And then Hurricanes, anything works.
Yeah, they're a team that doesn't have many holes. Their offense struggled by the time they got to the conference final, but that was mainly because of injuries to guys like Pacioretty and Svechnikov more than it was lack of talent.
Mm-hmm. Then we go to the Islanders and say forwards.
Yeah, the Islanders are a team notoriously defensive, and they need to improve their offense if they want to get past a lot of these teams in the playoffs, especially without the coach that they've had for so long.
And then the Jets, we say forwards as well.
Yeah, they're going to lose Pierre-Luc Dubois and some other guys, so picking up a forward would be extremely helpful.
And then a team that traded for a goalie, but it's still their need for us is the Kings.
Yeah, they obviously traded Jonathan Quick to the obviously they traded to the Blue Jackets, who eventually moved him to Vegas, and he won a championship. But the Kings have other spots to fill.
And then we have the Knights where we put forwards, just because Mark Stone's dealt with injuries, and it really wasn't. There wasn't a defined score. It just seemed kind of like an all-out effort.
Yeah, that's good, and a lot of teams will win games doing that. The only problem is, again, if injuries happen, that they are kind of they're kind of in a bad spot because of that. So they need to bolster that because they've one of the best defensive units in the league. And again, goaltending was not a problem. And I know Aiden Hill probably will leave, but they still have Logan Brossoit, who's an all-star this year.
All right, and then we get to the Leafs, where they're a good team, but I think some defensemen could help, or we think that some defensemen could help.
Yeah, defenseman is a problem for them, but again, it's not a big one. They just need to start playing better. But this is where the biggest hole we think is.
Yeah, and then Lightning, we put forwards. They've dealt with injuries, and they just seem some guys may leave because they're up against the cap, so they just need to keep replacing forwards.
Yeah, you explained it well.
Cool. And then the Oilers, anything besides forward.
Yeah, the forwards kept them in the playoffs. I know Evan Bouchard led the playoffs in points for defensemen, but the depth there, and then obviously they need playoff goaltending. I know Stuart Skinner had a great regular season, but his playoff woes definitely had a bitter end to the season.
And then we have Panthers defensemen.
Yeah, they had a hole in defense before the playoffs started. It was a big reason why they struggled to the last spot in the playoffs for the East. But they started going, but they don't have a unit that can lead them into another playoff spot right now with how their defense is looking.
And then we put depth for the Penguins.
Yeah, depth all around will help the Penguins. They're just an older team that needs a lot of new faces.
And then Predators forward.
Yeah, the Predators are another team that's defensively oriented, and so bolstering forwards will help USSRFs in the defense.
And then we put defensemen for the Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers are a offensive-based team, and I'm sure they'll re-sign some guys in free agency offensively, but in the draft, they need to address defense.
And then we put depth for the Red Wings.
Yeah, they're another team that I think has a lot of potential, but they just need to get better in some tight spots.
And then we put goalie for the Sabres.
Yeah, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has some potential, but Craig Anderson was definitely the better goaltender of the two, and he's retiring, so they need to fill that void.
And then we put defensemen for the Senators.
Yeah, the Senators have a lot of young forwards and also an old one in Claude Giroux, but besides some other top guys or top pair on defense, they really do have a hole there.
And then we put everything for the Sharks.
Yeah, they only have a few bright spots, so anything will help.
And then we have the two final teams are teams from Minnesota. You have the former Minnesota Stars, Dallas Stars now, and they need defensemen.
Yeah. I mean, you can explain that best as a fan, but they do need defensemen.
Yeah, Ryan Suter was the one of their top defensemen, and I think that does enough to explain why defenseman is a need. Do you agree?
Yeah.
And then with the Wild, they need a center. You mentioned Eriksson Ek beforehand. He was injured with their season in the playoffs, and then they had Hartman, and they just really need more centers.
Yeah, they do because they just struggle with depth in that spot. Besides, like I said, Eriksson Ek is the only one I really trust.
Yep, and that concludes the list. Let us know what you think, and thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.